The first time seeing the sea. I grew up in a small village surrounded by green hills and golden fields. There was a small river where we played as children, but I had never seen the sea. The older people in the village spoke about it. They said it was endless, blue and full of life. I listened to their stories with wonder, imagining the waves, the smell of salt, and the soft sand under my feet. As a boy, I often looked at the sky and dreamed. I wanted to see the world beyond my village. But life was simple, and travel was not easy. We worked hard in the fields, and there was little time for dreams. Still, the idea of the sea stayed in my heart. I told myself, one day I will see it. That day came when I was a young man. A friend from another town invited me to visit. His town was by the coast. My heart jumped with excitement. This was my chance. I packed a small bag, said goodbye to my family, and left on my journey. The trip was long and full of surprises. First, I took a bus. The road twisted through hills and valleys, showing me places I had never seen before. Then I took a train. It was my first time on a train, and I watched in amazement as the world rushed past the window. The cities were big, full of people and noise. Everything felt fast and new. Finally, I arrived at my friend's town. He greeted me with a big smile and took me straight to the shore. My heart pounded as we walked. I could hear something in the distance, a deep, rhythmic sound. It was the sea calling me. Then we reached the beach. I stood still, my feet sinking into the warm sand. Before me, the ocean stretched as far as I could see. The waves moved in a slow, endless dance. The water sparkled under the sun, changing colours from deep blue to bright silver. The salty wind touched my face, and I closed my eyes, taking it all in. At that moment, I felt something I had never felt before. The sea was bigger than I had imagined, more beautiful than words could say. I felt small, yet somehow free. It was as if the sea was speaking to me, telling me that the world was vast, full of wonders, and waiting to be explored. I stood there for a long time, staring at the waves. The sound of the water was soft and endless. It was different from the small river in my village. The river was quiet, slow and familiar. But the sea was alive, always moving, always changing. It felt like a giant breathing in and out. My friend laughed when he saw my face. "Come on," he said. "Let's get closer." We walked toward the water, and I felt the sand under my feet. It was warm and soft. Then a wave touched my toes. The water was cold, but it made me smile. It was my first time feeling the sea on my skin. I bent down and let the water run over my hands. The salt stayed on my fingers, and I tasted it. It was strange but exciting. The sea had a different smell too. It was fresh, full of wind and mystery. It was nothing like the air in my village. As I walked along the shore, I saw small shells and stones. Each one was different, shaped by the waves over time. Some were smooth, some were rough. I picked up a white shell and put it in my pocket. A memory, I thought. Something to take home with me. Then my friend pointed to something far in the water. "Look," he said. I followed his hand and saw a boat. It looked small against the great ocean. I wondered about the people on it. Were they fishermen? Were they travellers? What stories did they have? As the sun began to set, the colours of the sky changed. The blue turned to orange and pink. The sea reflected the light, making everything glow. I had never seen anything so beautiful. I took a deep breath and smiled. This, I thought, is a moment I will never forget. The sun was lower now, and the sky was full of colours. I sat on the sand, watching the waves move back and forth. The air was cooler, and the wind played with my hair. It was peaceful, but my heart was full of excitement. My friend sat next to me and smiled. "Do you like it?" he asked. I nodded. "It's more than I imagined," I said. "The sea is big, endless. It feels like a dream." He picked up a small rock and threw it into the water. "The sea is strong," he said. "It takes everything and changes it. Look at the sand, the shells. The water shapes them, just like time shapes us." I thought about his words. Were we like the shells? Changing, growing, shaped by life? A child ran past us, laughing, his feet splashing in the water. His parents walked behind him, holding hands. I smiled. The sea was not just a place, it was a feeling. It was freedom, joy, and wonder. I closed my eyes and listened. The waves whispered stories, old and new. I imagined sailors travelling far, searching for new lands. I imagined people like me, seeing the sea for the first time, feeling the same amazement. When I opened my eyes, the stars were starting to appear. The sky was darker now, but the sea still shined under the moonlight. I took a deep breath. This place, this moment, was special, and I knew I would carry it in my heart forever. The night air was fresh and cool. The sound of the waves was softer now, like a quiet song. I walked along the shore, feeling the wet sand under my feet. Each step left a mark, but soon the water washed it away. I looked up at the sky. The stars were bright, and the moon shone over the sea. The water looked silver under the light. It was beautiful, almost magical. My friend pointed at the horizon. "The sea never ends," he said. "It connects every place, every person. Somewhere far away, someone else is looking at this same ocean." His words made me think. The world felt bigger now, yet somehow closer too. A soft breeze touched my face. The smell of salt and water filled the air. I took a deep breath, feeling peaceful. I had never known such calm before. We sat on a rock, watching the dark waves move. I knew the night would end and we would leave, but something inside me had changed. I was not the same person who had arrived. The sea had shown me something new, something deep. I smiled. "I will come back," I whispered, and I knew I would. The night passed slowly, and I did not want to sleep. The sound of the waves was like a song, calling me to stay awake. I sat on the sand, watching the water move under the moonlight. It was peaceful, yet full of life. My friend sat beside me. "Do you like the sea?" he asked. I smiled and nodded. "It is more than I imagined," I said. "It feels endless, like a dream." He laughed. "That is why people love it. The sea is free, always moving, always changing." We watched a small boat in the distance. Its light flickered like a star on the water. I thought about the people on that boat. Were they travelling far? Were they afraid or excited? The sea held so many stories, and I wanted to know them all. The wind grew stronger, and the waves rose higher. The sea was never still. It reminded me of life, sometimes calm, sometimes wild, but always moving forward. I closed my eyes and listened. In that moment, I felt connected to something greater. The sea was a mystery, but it welcomed me. I knew I would never forget this night. The sun began to rise, painting the sky with soft pink and orange colours. The sea reflected the light, shining like gold. I took a deep breath, feeling the fresh morning air. It was my last day here, but wanted to remember everything. I walked along the shore, my feet sinking into the wet sand. Small waves touched my ankles, cool and gentle. I looked at the endless water and smiled. The sea had changed something inside me. I felt free, like the waves that never stop moving. My friend stood beside me. "Will you come back?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes, I must. The sea is now part of me." He smiled. "Then you will never truly leave. The sea stays in your heart." We sat on a rock and watched the waves for a while. Birds flew above, their wings wide and strong. A fisherman pulled his net from the water, his boat rocking with the tide. Life here moved with the sea, never rushing, never stopping. As I turned to leave, I felt a deep peace inside me. The sea had taught me something important. Life is big, like the ocean. Sometimes it is calm, sometimes it is wild, but it is always beautiful. I walked away, but I knew I would return. The sea was waiting for me.